recording. So let's start with the lecture today, and we'll start with Introduction to Human Physiology, which is the first chapter. In this chapter, we're going to talk about definition, then the homeostasis, how our body maintains normal consistency of the body, and then we will talk about the hierarchy of structural organization of our body. That means how our body is made up of very tiny subatomic particle, neutron and proton and electron, to a complex human body. Then we'll go over overview of tissues in the bodies. What are the types? What are their functions? And uh, at the end, we have the integration of different system in the body. Like we have several systems like nervous system, digestive system, respiratory system, and all other systems, how these all systems work together and integrate with each other. Okay. So here, human physiology is the study of how the human body functions with emphasis on a specific cause and effect mechanism. So just function of the human body is not the physiology. To know the mechanism and what is the cause and effect of having this function and not having this function, that is physiology. Physiology is the processes and the mechanism of body function. This term was was taken from the Greek word physis, means nature, and logos means study. And once you know the normal function of the body, then there are certain time we have abnormal function of the body. That is called pathophysiology. So pathophysiology is the process of altering physiological process in disease process. There is another branch of physiology which is called comparative physiology, where we compare vertebrate animal physiology with invertebrate animal physiology. Okay. So when you open your textbook of physiology, you see our normal pulse rate is 78 or 80 beats per minute. How did we know that? That was first observed, hypothesis was made, experimental tool was developed, and then several experiments were done and results were analyzed, and that's how we got that pulse rate. And this whole process is called scientific method. And we believe in science and scientific method because it has several attributes which makes us believe the scientific method. So what are the attributes of scientific methods? Means qualities that force us to believe. Number one, it is explainable in an understandable form. Science never explains things in vague and in incomprehensible form. It is always clear, understandable language. Scientific method explanation is based on observation and can be modified by other valid observation. This is the beauty of scientific method. Once a scientist says, this is the new information, and after a year, another group of scientists find different, then they compare and go through the rigorous processes, and if they find the second one valid, then they easily accept it and modify the previous information. They never keep it the way it is. Humility to accept the fact that one could be wrong. Scientists never says this is the ultimate truth. Science says it is dynamic, it is changing, and when there is sometimes you are wrong, always ready to accept mistake. Okay? Like if you talk about other source of information, uh, then you don't have to ask question. You just say it and follow it like any religious text, no matter which religion it is. If there is written something in the text, then you have to believe it. That's a faith. You cannot question it. If you question, then you will have problem. But in science, you can question all the time. So these are the attributes of the scientific method. That's why we believe it. There are hundreds of millions of scientific method even today going on. And one of the best example is clinical example of the clinical trial. So you heard COVID came and there was no vaccine. So there was clinical trial going on for COVID long time, like almost for 6 months. And there are several phases of those scientific method like clinical trials. So to like COVID came very fast. It is because this was the emergency time and the administration pushed it up very fast. That's why it happened. Otherwise, in the past, pretty much most of the drugs, it takes like 10 years to bring a medicine in the market from the concept it started. So it takes time. Okay. So the phases of clinical trials are phase one, phase two, phase three, and phase four. So what do we do in phase one? The drug. First, what happens? Even these before these phases, scientists try the drugs in lab and then in vitro, like outside the animal body in the chemical lab, and then it goes into the animal labs, the lab animals, and then we bring in human. And in human, there is four phases. So phase one is the drug is tested on healthy human volunteers. Like you try it on all healthy human volunteers. Phase two is drug is tested on target human population. For example, if the drug was intended for hypertension, high blood pressure patient, HTN means hypertension, then you will find the uh, some group, a small group of high blood pressure patient and using them and see the result and analyze the result. If there is good result, no toxic effect, no side effects, or no very dangerous side effects, then we go to phase three. In phase three, what do we do? Like we have a small sample now, so we increase the sample. We'll take different race, different geographical area, different age, different economic status, different type of job holders. Like we will increase our sample size, and then we do random selection of them, and then do the same, try the same drug in them, dividing them. One is the control and one is like major testing group. In control, what you give, you just give placebo, and in main group, you give the real drug, and then analyze again, report. If it comes good, then we go to phase four, where we use test other potential use of the drug. Like the single drug can be used for both. For example, enalapril, captopril medication, which is used for the hypertension, that medication also protects the kidney from the type 2 diabetic uh, damage, which was found in phase four. Okay. And after this drug, FDA approves, after the drug comes into market, then there is post-market surveillance for a long time, like another 10 years, to see if there is long term, because some of the side effect takes years to come. So we do that too. So anytime when you are taking anything at the beginning, there is potential effect, long-term effect maybe. Okay, so I think we will have a break because it is already 1:55. So let's have a break of around 10 minutes, and then I will come here and we will not take much. It will be around only 30 minutes and we will finish this lecture. Yeah. Okay, so homeostasis and feedback control. Homeostasis is the mechanism which maintains our physiological parameters within a normal range. For example, our blood pressure, normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 millimeter of mercury. That doesn't mean your blood pressure remains in that range all the time. Sometimes from 120, it goes to 21, 22, 23, and it goes same way 80, 82, 83, 84, 85. But it does not go like 400, 150 or 110 if you don't have hypertension normally. That is called homeostasis. So in body, everything, all the systems, glands, nervous system, they all work together and maintain a holistic normalcy in the body. Normalcy in the body. That is called homeostasis. So the homeostasis is the regulatory mechanism of the body that can be understood in the terms of a single shared function that maintain constancy of the internal environment despite external environment change. So it doesn't matter how cold or hot is outside, your body temperature must be maintained within a normal body temperature to survive. And that is done by homeostasis mechanism. The alternative definition of the homeostasis is a state of relative constancy of the internal environment. That is called homeostasis. And this term was coined by American scientist. His name is Walter Cannon. He was from 1871 to 1945. He is the one who first brought this terminology. So some of the homeostatic examples you see here. So these all are the homeostasis, like your arterial blood pH, blood bicarbonate, blood sodium, blood calcium, oxygen content in your blood, urea content in your blood, amino acid, protein, total lipids, and glucose. These are, so if you see, let's see arterial blood pH, which is 7.35 to 7.45. This is the homeostasis. If you go below 7.35, that is acidosis because you have a lot of acid in your body. If you go beyond it, 7.45, that means you have less acid and more base, alkali. That's why we call it alkalosis. Okay, so these all are the example of the range. You don't need to memorize. These are just the example of homeostasis in our body. Okay, so homeostasis in the body is maintained by feedback loop. Okay, and in any feedback loop, let me go here first and then I will come back. In any feedback, so here there is a feedback loop. And these feedback loops are two kinds. There is negative feedback loop and positive feedback loop. Okay, so they are negative feedback and positive feedback loop. So here is one loop you can see. So what are the component in any loop? Let's see, this is the loop for our body temperature. Okay, so let's see if it's very hot outside and like you were in the air conditioning and then you are outside the air condition outside, now outside, and outside temperature is high or low. So once the temperature is high, your body's temperature will go high too. Yes. So this temperature, which is 37 degrees centigrade or 97 degrees Fahrenheit, this temperature is the variables, which is the set point. Okay. And if it goes above the set point, then the receptor in the body detects it. So sensor detects the change. And then this sensor, what are these sensors? These are the nervous system parts. So they are receptor. These sensors are connected to the neuron, sensory neuron. Then it takes to the integrating center, particularly in the temperature case, it goes to the hypothalamus in your brain. And then hypothalamus, which is integrating center, makes the decision, dictates the decision. Like body temperature is high. So how you can reduce the body temperature to the normal? You have to lose heat. So this integrator center then, through the motor neuron, efferent neuron, takes the sensation or information to the effector organ. Which organ can lose heat? The skin, blood vessels. So this neuron goes to blood vessel dilates, sweat glands are sweating, skin blood vessel dilates, and then they start losing heat. And once your body loses heat, then what happens? Your body temperature from 38 again will come to 37. And now, then sensory neuron again from here gives the negative feedback to the neurons that the purpose is fulfilled. So it gives negative feedback and turn off this sensor again till again the temperature rises. Okay, so you see here there is a normal range, this variable x temperature increase, then what happens? Sensor activated, and then integrated center decide, heat produced. Once heat is on the upper line of normal range, then it comes down, and then it is inactivated through negative feedback. So 90, I will say 95% of the physiological mechanism homeostasis is maintained in our body through the negative feedback loop, and very few are maintained through the positive feedback loop. Okay, so let's go back and check it now. So component of the feedback loop are homeostasis is maintained by negative feedback loop, and the components of negative feedback loop are sensor. As I said earlier, sensors are the detector which detects a deviation from a set point. Then set point is the value, usually the normal set of physiological values. In our example earlier, what was the set point? Anybody?
37 degrees
Yes.
body temperature.
Yeah, that was the body temperature. And then integrator center was the hypothalamus, and that integrating center receives information from many different sensors and determines the response. And then effectors was a skin, particularly the sweat glands and blood vessel in the skin. So effectors are the relative strength of different sensory inputs are weighed here, and response is produced. Okay, that is, so if I in the example put which one of the following are not the component of feedback loop, then you have to know it. If I give example or definition of one and ask which one is this, you need to know. Same thing here. Okay, earlier. Now in this case, the same set point is now lowered, this set point x. Let's see, I'm going to give you another example. Let's see your blood sugar. So your blood sugar is dropped because you have not eaten anything for last 12 hours. Your blood sugar is dropped, and that is sensed by your beta cells, alpha cells in the pancreas, and that is connected to the neuron that takes to the integrating centers, or not in the neuron, connected to the pancreatic islets, and then pancreatic islets is integrating center which determines to release a hormone, and that is called glucagon. And then glucagon, what does glucagon do? Goes to liver, the effector organ, and that breaks down glycogen, increase blood glucose, send to the blood, and then increase blood and maintain again normal blood glucose. So this is the same thing, but just when it is lower. So how homeostasis is maintained? Here is the circle of homeostasis. So condition in the body change from the set point, then change is detected, corrective mechanism is activated, condition return to the set point, and then corrective mechanism switches off. So this is negative sign here, negative feedback. This is integrating, and here is effector. Homeostasis of body temperature, as I told you earlier, both. So you see here, negative feedback loop when temperature is increased and decreased. So pretty much everywhere there is regulate variables. There is detector, there is efferent pathway which goes to integrating center, then efferent pathway, then that goes to effector response, and then this negative feedback loop gives the negative response. Same thing when there is, if you take this is the like loop path template, but when you take the real example, then what do you see here? Increased body temperature, thermoreceptors in the body, which is everywhere, detect it through the sensory neuron pathway, it goes to hypothalamus, and then hypothalamus determines what to do. Then through the motor neuron, it goes to skin, wherein in skin you increase sweating and skin blood flow. And that's how increased body temperature. And once it is increased again, that gives negative feedback. Okay. This is the homeostasis and control of body temperature both way when it is going up and down, and it is showing through the hypothalamus how it works. We have talked twice this thing. Okay, negative feedback control of blood glucose, as I said earlier. So how our body, through the homeostasis, through the negative feedback loop, maintain still normal blood glucose when you are eating or when you are fasting. Okay, so you see sign here, there is sensor, integrating center, and the effector. This is the footnotes for different color. So let's see, you have a big meal, dinner. What happens? Glucose is absorbed and blood glucose increased. And that goes to your pancreas, particularly pancreatic islets, which is of Langerhans. And here pancreas is working as everything. Pancreas is sensor, pancreas is integrating center, pancreas is effector. So it sends first, and then it increase release of insulin from beta cells of the pancreas. When insulin released from pancreas, where does it go? It get into your blood. From the blood, it goes to your three cells. Number one, skeletal muscle cell. Number two, fat cell. Number three, liver cells. And these three kinds of cells then start taking blood glucose with the help of insulin and putting into their cell and breaking down them by glycolysis and making ATP. And that's how you reduce blood glucose. And once there is less than normal, then it gives, or to the normal, then it gives negative feedback mechanism to the sleep. Same thing here when he's fasting, low blood glucose. Instead of insulin, what increase here? Glucagon. I told earlier, glucagon, what does it do? Increase glucose secretion into blood by liver, and then liver send that glucose into your blood. So there is increased blood glucose, and then again, it gives negative feedback. Okay, negative feedback control of our blood pressure. Again, you have denotation of sensor, integrating center, effector. Keep in mind here. So this guy is lying down. Anybody who is lying down, your blood pressure is high. And when you stand up, what happens? Your blood vessel, veins, artery in the leg is relaxed. So your blood from your upper part of the body come into your leg. That's why blood to your heart is less. And that's why your blood pressure falls. When blood pressure is falling, in the wall of your blood vessel, there are stretch receptors. That receptors detect fall in blood pressure. So fall in blood pressure is a stimulus. Blood pressure receptor, which is stimulated, those are the sensor. Then these sensor receptors are attached to the nerve fibers of the sensory neuron. Those sensory neuron then goes to your brain and a spinal cord, particularly in the medulla oblongata, because medulla oblongata had blood pressure center, vasomotor center. From there, medulla oblongata send motor neuron and says heart, hey, heart, we have low blood pressure. Can you maintain it? And then heart goes, yes. Heart start pumping fast and with increased force. And that's how heart as an effector increase blood pressure. Once the blood pressure is normal, then the system gives negative feedback and this circle then switch off for a while. Are you guys following me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
this is negative feedback control of the blood pressure. Okay, now these are the easier things. Introduction to cells. You have done these cells. Cells are the smallest living unit in our body. It has several regions. Organelles are the little organs in the cell which carry on essential function of the cells. All the biochemical functions in the cells are performed by these organelles. And organelles are like mitochondria, ribosome, rough endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, peroxisomes, several others. Inside the cell, there are several biochemical enzymes, and that enzymes direct chemical reaction in the cell. And those enzymes either break down the large particle into a small particle, like when we eat carb, and then if we take fatty acid, glycerol, or lipid in our cell may break down into a smaller carbon compound, and that is called catabolism. And sometimes your cell can take amino acid and join them and make protein, and that is called anabolism. And together, these all biochemical reaction breaking up or joining them all. It's called metabolism. Okay, so metabolism is sum of all chemical reaction in the cell, whether it is breaking down reaction or joining, or we call them synthetic or breaking reaction. Cells have three main components, as you know: plasma membrane, which is the outer membrane, made up of phospholipid bilayer with some protein and other structure, which is the boundary of the cells. And that plasma membrane communicate with other cells and the extracellular space. It also contains cytoplasm, which is the liquid part of the cells, and organelles we talked earlier. And the center of the cell is nucleus, which contains all the genetic material of the cells. Okay. Cells, similar type of cells work together in a functionally related group, and they are called tissues. And in the body, there are four basic types of tissues, and they are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, and muscle and nervous tissue. So epithelial tissue covers your body wall. Epithelial covers your body wall. Body surface, basically. So, but our body surface is outside the body, like a skin. Skin has epithelial tissue, stratified squamous epithelium. Inside the body, oral cavity, GI tract wall, urinary wall, bladder wall, uterus wall, cervix wall, vaginal wall, they all inner lining is made up of epithelial tissue. Okay. Connective tissue connect all the tissue together and support them. For example, your bone, cartilage, ligaments, blood, they are the connective tissue. Muscle tissues are the tissues which moves the body and the body content. And there are three types of muscle tissue. What are they?
Cardiac.
Cardiac, smooth, and skeletal.
Okay. So skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and a smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle attached to your bone and that moves your body. Smooth muscles are found in the wall of the tubular organs of your body. For example, wall of your small intestine, wall of your ureter, wall of your urinary bladder. Cardiac muscles, so what does this smooth muscle do? Sorry, what does this smooth muscles do? Smooth muscles contract and moves whatever content is found in that tubular organs. Third type of muscle tissue is cardiac muscle, which is found in only one location, that is in the middle wall of your heart. And when that muscle, cardiac muscle contract, that moves your blood from the heart into blood vessels. Nervous tissue is found in the brain, in the spinal cord, in the nerves, and nervous tissue controls other tissues in the body. Okay. We cover in very detail about tissues in the human anatomy. Okay. The next is the hierarchy of a structural organization. Our body is made up of very micro, tiny particles of atoms. That's why we can describe our body from the very simplest form to very complex form. So here you can see there is chemical level, cellular level, tissue level, organ level, and organ system level. And then the human body organism level. So here, the chemical level, any matter in the universe are made up of atoms. And it doesn't matter which atoms they are made up of three kinds of subatomic particles. And what are those subatomic particles?
Protons, neurons, and wait. Oh, sorry. Protons, neutrons, and
Electrons.
electrons.
Yes.
Thank you.
So proton, neutron, and electrons. Okay. Those proton, neutron, and electrons combine, and we're going to talk about this in next chapter, and becomes atoms. Then several atoms combine and they become elements or molecules. And these molecules then combine and forms large molecules, which we call macromolecules. You see here, footnote, macromolecules. And we have four basic types of macromolecules in our body, and they are carbohydrate, amino acids, fatty acids, and nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. Okay. So these macromolecules then combine together and forms the cell. And here you can see the example of one cell, which is a smooth muscle cell, spindle shape. It has plasma membrane, it has cytoplasm, and in the center you can see the nucleus. Not all the cells in the body are same types. There are diverse group of cells in our body. When similar types of cells, like a smooth muscle cells in this case, let me explain first why cells are made up of macromolecules. If you take plasma membrane of smooth muscle cell. Plasma membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayer. That means it is made up of phosphate and lipid, and both are macromolecules. When similar cell combine, it becomes the tissue. In this case here is smooth muscle tissue. That's a tissue level. When more than one kind of tissue combine together, then it forms the organ. You see, example of organ is blood vessel here. And blood vessel is made up of more than one kind of tissue. In this case, 3 types. The inner lining, which is called tunica interna, is made up of epithelial tissue, simple squamous epithelium. Middle layer is made up of muscle tissue, smooth muscle. And outermost is made up of connective tissue, particularly dense regular connective tissue. Okay? And that's how they form organs. When more than one organ forms together, works together, then it forms organ system level. And here is, we have like 13 systems in the body. And you can see one system, cardiovascular system, is made up of 2 organs, heart and blood vessels. What are the nervous system made up of organs? Which organs?
Brain and the spinal cord.
Brain is spinal cord. Good. And then when all the system work together, then we are human being, organism level. So you can see all the system working. Okay. Okay. So as I said earlier, how our systems, all systems in the body, integrate with each other. Look at this diagram. So here is respiratory system. Here is digestive system. This is our body wall, covered by skin, integumentary system. And you have hole in the skin. Then you have what is entering through the skin. Digestive system, respiratory system. Here you have the renal system, reproductive system. But if you look at cardiovascular system, what is it? It is closed system. See? That's why when you cut cardiovascular system, you bleed. So let's see how they work. Let's start with the digestive system. So when you eat anything that goes into your stomach, from stomach after digestion, you absorb them in blood. Then blood takes it to the lungs and then to the body. Respiratory system brings oxygen, also puts in the blood, and then blood sends nutrition and oxygen to the nervous tissue, to the muscle tissue, to other tissue. So what does it in muscle tissue do? Muscle tissue takes it, use it, makes energy and work. And then whatever byproduct, waste product is coming, pass to the blood again, then it goes to either digestive system, respiratory system as carbon dioxide, or to the kidney, and then it passes. Similarly, this all system is feeding the reproductive system. So this is like how each system is working together. It is not like a one department and they have no correlation with others. Okay. Earlier, we talked about the homeostasis and negative feedback. We did not talk about positive feedback mechanism. So positive, negative feedback mechanism. What does negative feedback mechanism do? Once something increase, negative feedback decrease or increase?
Increase.
Again, question I am going to repeat. In negative feedback loop, when some parameter is increased, negative feedback mechanism decreases it or increases?
Decreases.
Increases.
Okay, so when decreases, it increases. And when increases, what does it do? Just opposite. That means negative feedback mechanism works in opposite direction, yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So positive feedback mechanism, on the other hand,
Decreases.
now, positive feedback mechanism accelerate the change. So when something is increased, it further increases. When something is decreases, it further decreases. For example, during the menstruation cycle, on 14th day of your menstruation cycle, if your ovulation cycle is normal, on 14th day of menstruation cycle, estrogen hormone goes high, and luteinizing hormone also increases. So both they are increasing each other, and they go up at the high till the egg is released. That means there it is not, one is not decreasing other, one is increasing other. That's why that is positive feedback mechanism. If something is going down and then another component is also bringing it down, that is also called positive feedback mechanism. Usually a student get confused with negative feedback mechanism and positive feedback mechanism. Let's see avalanche. In the Sierra Mountain, if there is a small break of snow, what happens? That gives pressure, that gives more pressure, that gives more pressure, and pressure increase further till it hit the ground. And that is also positive feedback mechanism. When you have a cut, you start bleeding. And then once platelets and clotting factor comes, they start plugging with each other and decrease the bleeding. And that is also positive feedback mechanism. So this is called negative and positive feedback mechanism. In summary, negative feedback mechanism works in opposite direction, whereas positive feedback mechanism works in the same direction. That means it actually rates the change, which I have written here in the footnote. Okay. So this is all for today. We have talked about general overview of physiology, then scientific method, homeostasis, introduction to cells and tissues, and then integration between system of the bodies.
We're not going over chapter 2?
No, chapter 2 is on next class on 20th.
Oh, I thought we were doing 3 chapters this week.
So this week have 2 lecture we have.
Okay.
Today is Tuesday, we have Thursday too.
Because it's per week.
Yeah, it is per week. Okay, so let me turn it on. And if you guys have any personal questions, some of you have emailed me, you can stay and we can talk one by one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hi,
guys.
Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor, I have a quick question.